Hello, Unscripted with Daniel viewers and listeners. In this episode, I am talking to Harry Peterson and Geriger Mann. Both of them are running for Porter County Prosecutor. This is an important job that establishes justice within Porter County. You know, they have to make some very difficult decisions, and you'll hear a lot about those decisions within these two interviews. Both of them have a lot of experience that they bring to the table. I hope this helps you, the voter, become more informed. Now, there is another Republican candidate that could not fit within this interview. So, stay tuned, and that could be coming soon. Okay, thank you and enjoy. Welcome to Unscripted with Daniel, your free, independent news source for Valparaiso and Indiana politics. Welcome to Unscripted with Daniel. I'm Daniel, and today we're sitting down with Harry Peterson, and he's running for Porter County Prosecutor, and I'm going to let him take it away and just inform us about himself and why he's running.
Thank you, Daniel. So thank you for having me, and thank you to all the listeners of this. So I'm running for Porter County Prosecutor. I was a deputy prosecutor here in Porter County for over 6.5 years. Before that, I interned at the Porter County Prosecutor's Office for my third year of law school, and I continue now to be a deputy prosecutor over in LaPorte County. I'm running because I care about this community. I care about helping people, solving problems, and that goes back to really my entire career. As a deputy here, and I also served on Valparaiso City Council. I really care about helping people and solving the problems that we're facing today. A little bit about my campaign first. I believe in law and order through tough but fair resolutions that put victims and the people of Porter County first. I believe in active leadership and community engagement. And so as we break down all of those things, law and order through tough but fair resolutions. A long time ago, there was a president named Theodore Roosevelt who had a line that was, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." And I remember as a young kid reading that and wondering what that really meant. But what that means is having the strength to get done what you set out to do without necessarily having to break out that big stick. Speak softly, but carry the big stick. And how that relates to the Porter County Prosecutor's Office is through negotiations of cases. Right now, there are cases in Porter County that people are facing 40, 80, or 100 years in prison, and their plea deals offered where these people serve 10 years or less in prison. Now, in some instances, that may be the best outcome for the case. But there's other instances where that's not. And when we talk about law and order and holding people accountable for their actions, I think that that's an important thing. Another issue as it relates to law and order is the timely filing and resolving of cases. Some of these cases sit around for years, and in some instances, these offenders are released on bond and then back in the community. And in some instances, commit more crimes. A case I tried and took to trial a few years ago was 7 years old when it finally went to trial, and when that person was found guilty, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. He had been released from jail that entire time. And so when we talk about holding people accountable in law and order, that's just not acceptable to me. That's the timely resolving of cases, timely filing of cases. there were plenty of cases I saw at the Porter County Prosecutor's Office that were submitted for review and then sat on someone's desk for months, or in some instances years at a time. And this is just compounding the issue, because then these people are charged, and if it's a serious crime, hopefully they remain in jail, but maybe they're released out on bond. But it still goes back to, we knew about this heinous crime that was committed, and we did not have the urgency to take action for whatever reason. Now, active leadership. In my career as a deputy prosecutor in Porter County for over 6.5 years, I took more than twice as many cases to jury trial as any other deputy. And it's not often that you see such disparities. And I don't really have an explanation for it. But what I can say is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, I was willing to take those cases to trial. I didn't win all of them. I won most of them. But that's another problem, that sometimes the prosecutor gets up against the wall and, we're going to go to trial. And then that's when those sweet plea deals come in, where the person gets, 10 years or less when they were facing 40, 80, or 100 years. That's not right to me. If we really believe in the case that we filed, why aren't we willing to take the case to trial and do that hard work? Being a prosecutor is a very tough job. To be a good prosecutor, you need to be willing to take the tough cases to trial. That's speaking softly with carrying a big stick. And you stand your ground and say, this is the plea offer, and if you don't like it, that's fine. That is your constitutional right to a trial, and we're going to honor it, and we're going to take the case to trial. Also, in terms of what I call active leadership, is if you look at everything I did in the prosecutor's office, doing twice as many jury trials as anyone else, look at everything I've done outside of the prosecutor's office, serving this community. To me, it's much more than really any other candidate. And I'm not talking about things that I did, 40 or 20 years ago, because 20 years ago I was 12 years old. And by the way, right, Daniel was my next door neighbor growing up, so I knew him when I was 12 years old. But I'm talking about the things that I've done recently, not some long time ago, and where obviously there's things change and laws change and evidence changes, DNA. Now we have phone and all sorts of electronic data that becomes evidence that didn't even exist 40 or 20 years ago. But the active leadership of serving this community through Valpo City Council, through the City of Valpo Plan Commission, the Porter County Park Board. I still currently serve on the Plan Commission and Porter County Park Board. Before all that, I served on the Indiana Dunes Tourism Board. I became the vice president of that board at a very young age. That's evidence of leadership. And then many more things. I'm serving as the financial secretary for the Knights of Columbus Council 738 here in Valpo, serving as a state delegate to the Republican Convention, serving as a precinct committee person. All of these things are evidence of things that I do outside of my 9-to-5 job and are showing active leadership. Another point I want to bring up about being current on the laws is that I currently am an adjunct professor for Purdue Global Law School. So this is it's a newer concept. It's all online. But to me, why that's important is I stay up to date with all the developments and changes in the criminal law, and I'm teaching future people who want to be future lawyers the importance of all these concepts. And the number one in the criminal law is the presumption of innocence. And then that's balanced with the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the prosecutor has to prove at a trial, that has to, if the defendant is pleading guilty, the defendant is admitting that there is enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to prove these allegations against the defendant. Another important point in my campaign is community engagement. Some people in Porter County don't even know what a prosecutor is or what a prosecutor does. That's one issue. The next issue is, what is our current prosecutor's office doing? What are their objectives? How are these cases getting resolved? We don't see press releases like in Lake County or LaPorte County or from the United States Attorney about this offender pled guilty and was sentenced to 40 years, or this offender was found guilty at trial and sentencing is going to be this date, or when the sentencing after a jury trial. I think that's important to show the community, this is the work we're doing, these are the cases that we are putting our hard work into to prove. And I don't know why that is. It could be because some of these cases are being pled out in reduced charges. So that's I suppose that's my campaign in a nutshell of law and order through tough but fair resolutions, put victims and the people of Porter County first through active leadership and community engagement. I think I could talk a lot more about this, but in addition to all that, I served as an intern in the prosecutor's office. And I did some traffic tickets and low-level misdemeanor bench trials. I served as a misdemeanor prosecutor for over 3.5 years. And then I served as a high felony prosecutor here in Porter County for over 3 years. In addition to that, I served on the Porter County Mental Health Restoration Court. This is what's called a problem-solving court that's dealing with people who have mental health and substance abuse issues. And it's really, they get the benefit of the bargain. They plead guilty, put in the hard work of having a recovery coach, being in AA or NA classes, going to therapy, doing all, submitting weekly schedules of everything they're doing. And if they're successful and complete the program, their case and charges are dismissed. I'm fairly certain I'm the only candidate for prosecutor who has experience working in a problem-solving court, which I did for over 2.5 years. I'm not entirely sure of that, but this is a newer concept in Indiana and in the law that gives these offenders the chance to have their cases potentially dismissed if they do all, it's almost like probation on steroids for a year or maybe longer to make sure that hopefully these people will get the help they need and then not reoffend. And those are issues facing our community today: mental health and drug addiction. Yeah. And I am proud of the work I did on that court.
Are cases like that potentially going to the prosecutor's office? Is that something that you could face? And would similar actions be taken by a Porter County prosecutor, or is that not something that's in their toolbox, essentially?
As it relates to the problem-solving courts?
Yeah.
So there are cases that they get filed, and sometimes they're drug-related, and they'll get filed and then be sent to the filed by the prosecutor's office, and then if they choose through a plea agreement, they can go to these problem-solving courts. So that is something that's going on currently. I think it's a great program, and there's other problem solving courts, drug court and veterans court. I'm very supportive of those courts as well. But then the issue becomes the staffing that it takes to handle all those cases. So some of these courts are somewhat at their limits with funding concerns of we can only have 20 or 30 participants at a time. And so I would like to see more funding go to those programs through grants or other funding that's available, because I think those are important. I would also be in favor. Another idea that's been kicked around is a domestic violence problem solving court. Those cases they can be very complex. Sometimes it's the he said she said type of case. But oftentimes, a victim will come forward and not want the charges to be pressed, as they might say. But it's still the state's case and the state's responsibility to look at all the evidence and then make a decision on how that case is going to be resolved.
As the Porter County prosecutor, would it be part of your role to advocate for those types of special courts, or is that, is that something that's really in your purview, or is that something that you can just apply to your experience, apply to your actions as a Porter County prosecutor, potentially? So
it would be up to a judge to be willing to take on that sort of problem-solving court, like a domestic violence one. But that brings up, the, I guess you could say, the influence that a prosecutor could have in our state. It could be beneficial to Porter County to have a prosecutor with ties in the state house and relationships with judges. And relationships with IPAC, which is the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, to, let me put it this way, because some people, forget all this. Our state representatives or state senators pass laws and change laws. A prosecutor's job is to enforce the laws. But that doesn't mean that a prosecutor can't have influence on bills and things that are before in the state house. Now, recently there was a bill put forward by a state representative about I don't know the entire text of that bill, but it had something to do with if prosecutors aren't doing their jobs in delineated ways, not holding offenders accountable, not showing up to work, that they could be removed from office. And I was somewhat surprised to see a whole group of elected prosecutors, including the current Porter County prosecutor, down protesting against that bill. Because in my mind, if you're elected to do a job, work for the people. You work for the people of Porter County in this instance. Yeah. If you're not doing your job, and I would imagine it's a high standard, you could be removed under this proposed bill. So, to me, that doesn't, it's an interesting use of all these elected prosecutors' time to go down and protest that bill. Why not embrace it? Yeah, because, if you do your job and you hold offenders accountable, what's the reason to be against that bill?
True. Yeah. I guess I don't know the details of it. I wonder about the language of it. Maybe they feel it's too vague, or that it's. I don't even know. Yeah. I can't speak on it. Yeah. Do you happen to know the bill name?
I don't. Okay. And they always have the numbers, but there were some articles about it. And we don't need to speculate about that, but I just find that interesting, because like I said earlier, I want to do this job because I love this community. I want to help people and solve problems. If I was the elected prosecutor,
Yeah.
I would be handling some of these big cases in the courtroom, in trials. That's not currently happening. Our elected prosecutor hasn't done a jury trial since 2019, I believe. And you know, not every case goes to jury trial. In fact, 99% or more of cases end up in plea deals or some other disposition other than a jury trial. But, you know, that just gets back to the point. When I was in Porter County as a deputy, I did twice as many jury trials as any other deputy. And you know, Gary Gurman, the elected prosecutor, he's, you know, a great guy. He gave me a lot of opportunities in my career. But I feel like in any job, there comes a time when you've given it your all. There's no new ideas that you're putting forward, and you just become stale. And so when I say, you know, active leadership, I think what that means is, you know, being in the courtroom, doing jury trials, not asking my deputies to do anything that I'm not also willing to do and also doing, but then also, you know, knowing all the jobs in the office. When I was in college at Purdue University, Boiler Up, I read this book, and it was written by I think a Navy admiral, and it was called "It's Your Ship." And his whole message is, you know every job on your ship. Talk to the people and understand what's working with their jobs in their roles and what's not working. That's active leadership. And, you know, another thing with active leadership, holding deputy prosecutors accountable for, you know, some of these reduced pleas, or at least an explanation on it. And like I said, every case, the facts are different. Some cases that might be the best resolution for the victims or for the case in general for some sort of reduction in a sentence. But not to the extent that it's going on, I believe. And so I think there needs to be, you know, accountability with everyone in the prosecutor's office. The elected prosecutor is elected by the people, but everyone else are either appointed deputies or employees of the prosecutor's office, and the elected prosecutor is responsible for everything that they do. And I just feel like, and the analogy that I use is, and you know, sorry if you're not a Cubs fan, but Joe Madden won the World Series for the Cubs in 2016, and he was fired at the end of 2019 by the Cubs. Now, why is that? You know, he's 3 years removed from a great World Series win, a huge comeback win. And at the time when he won the World Series, it was all about his messaging, and it was so original, and he was such a creative manager, and he was hands off, and the young players thrived under it. But 3 years later, the message had just gone flat. There wasn't the level of accountability. So sometimes I feel there's a change that needs to happen, and that, you know, that's what I really believe at this time, that it's just time for a change. Some jobs are only meant to be in for so long. Some elected positions have term limits, which, you know, look at the problems that our country is facing at the, you know, and I don't want to talk national politics, so don't get me into it, but look at the problems that we're facing for these people who are 70, 80, 90 years old in the Congress and the Senate, and what have they really done in their 40-year career other than just collect a paycheck and not really help people or solve problems? So that, you know, that's why I feel that it's important. Now, I do also, you know, want to talk a little bit about, you know, with the, you know, these jury trials, I talk about how I've done, so many, and these are murder, child molesting, and rape. These are the tough cases that do go to trial, because most of the time nobody wants to plead to murder, child molesting, or rape, and you could have the best investigation in the world and still the person's demanding a trial, and that's their constitutional right. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna give it to them. And also, on that note of timely resolutions, there are laws in place that prosecutors' offices are to take a case to trial within certain amount of times, with the exception being unless the defense asks for it. Well, if you don't know this, if that's what's called the defense tactic, to delay, push the case out 7 years in the hopes that the victim doesn't care anymore, or witnesses go missing or die. And, that's not a good thing for law and order either. But, when we talk about, when I say these could be the best investigations in the world, and the defendant still wants a trial, that's their constitutional right. But let's talk about the police departments in Porter County. I'm very familiar with Valparaiso Police Department because I've done, murder, child molesting, and rape cases taken all the way to a jury trial with the Valparaiso Police Department. I'm also familiar with them from serving on Valpo City Council. They're CALEA accredited. That's 500 police departments across our entire nation have that distinction, and the Valparaiso Police Department is one of them. The Porter County Sheriff's Department, one of the most experienced detective bureaus around. I've done, a murder and child molesting and rape case with them as well. The Portage Police Department, I've done murder and some other shooting-related offenses with them. That these cases have gone to trial. Mm-hmm. And I don't want, Couts, Hebron, all these other, Chesterton, Porter, all these other departments are good. I believe it's a prosecutor's job to, work with the police, but we still have the job to independently review everything that they give us. Just because, a police officer sends a charge that says, here, this is an operating while intoxicated arrest, we don't just slap a signature on it. Right. Which some prosecutors do, and that happens in Porter County, that happens in every county. But it's important to read the facts, independently review the case, and question, do we have proof of, on this example, do we have proof of operation? Do we have proof of intoxication? Also to look, does this person have a prior conviction for operating while intoxicated that could change this from a misdemeanor offense to a felony? So the whole range of independently reviewing whether charges are even warranted, or possibly should these charges be enhanced. I think that attention to detail is very important for a prosecutor to have, because you certainly don't want to charge an innocent person, but you also want to hold people accountable for the crimes that they commit. A case like an operating while intoxicated offense, it's something that nearly anyone could be arrested for on any given day. You go out for lunch or dinner and you have a drink or two, and then all of a sudden you get pulled over.
Right.
And it could change someone's life. You're going to lose your driver's license. You're going to be in jail. And so, you need to just independently review all of those things. But, my final note just on the police departments here, I think they do great investigations, and we're going to help them. They might not agree with everything we say, but they're going to agree probably 95 to 99% of the time. And, we're going to give insight to them along the way. But these are professional police officers. We don't need to tell them to do their job. They're not going to tell us how to do our job, because that's really the way it should be. We work together, but we are independent offices.
Do you feel like that's not happening now? Is that happening in your opinion?
Well, there's a mix of opinions on that. So here's what I'd say. The issue of just, agreeing with everything that police say happens, but then, there's also no, we're not filing this that's going on now, or no, we're not charging this high, we're not charging this as attempted murder, we're charging this as aggravated battery because the guy got shot in the wrist and the leg twice. You could debate that issue. If someone gets shot 2 or 3 times in close range, should it be attempted murder or should it be aggravated battery? It's going to always depend on the facts and the background, the totality of the circumstances of that case. But then, also what I think is going on is, there's yes men in every profession, in every office. There's people who are just going to say yes to everything that comes over their desk. And so, I can't say any of those approaches are right. I think that you have to independently review each case and make that determination.
You're not saying necessarily that is or is not happening, but just what you would do in office, how you feel about it. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel. But I do feel from my experience in Porter County that, both of those things are happening.
I see. Okay.
Simultaneous.
Okay. All right. Now, sorry. Is there anything else that you want to add about just sort of final statements?
Well, how about this? So,
okay.
I've talked a lot about my campaign, but it's like, let's not forget that that we're all people here. And I think, first let me just say, I grew up in Valpo. I moved here when I was 10. I was Danny's next door neighbor growing up. Yep. I went to Valpo High School. I went to Purdue University, West Lafayette, but I came home each summer. Along that way, I worked for the Valpo Parks Department, teaching tennis in high school and in college, and then I worked for Zayo Island. And then, when I graduated college, I wanted to come home and go to law school here in Valpo because I care about this community. And then if you look at my entire career, it's been dedicated to being a prosecutor. I was right out of law school. I was struggling to find a job. I finally got a job offer. I had to accept it, and it was in insurance defense. I did that job for not even 2 months, and then I became a prosecutor, and I haven't looked back since. That's nearly, more than 95% of my career has been dedicated to being a prosecutor. And my opponents just simply can't say that. They've, dedicated their career to being prosecutors and criminal defense lawyers and in scenarios, for large portions of their career as criminal defense lawyers. And, concern with that too is that if you represented someone as a criminal defense lawyer and then you become prosecutor, you need to get a special prosecutor to prosecute those cases. Then those cases are handed out to overworked deputies from neighboring counties that don't result in the best outcomes. But I digress. I was fortunate enough to, be here in Porter County, meet my wife, Alyssa, who used to work at the prosecutor's office as a court manager. And we were married back in 2024. We have, again, a 10-month-old daughter now, Amelia. And, I'm dedicated to making this community safer. I think that's evidenced by my career. And, I truly care about the future of Porter County. And this election right now, I believe it is about all the things that I've talked about today. Law and order that puts victims and the people of Porter County first, and you need to achieve that through active leadership and community engagement. But this election is not about the next 4 years, and it's not even really about the next 8 years. This is about changing Porter County to make it safer. And I feel like I am the most qualified candidate to do that, that's going to bring energy to the role. And, you know, I'm not doing this for a title on my desk, to sit in an office and have the title of elected prosecutor. And I'm not doing this for a retirement job, because like I said, I for one, believe in term limits, and I'm not going to have this job in 15 or 20 years. I'm doing this to make Porter County safer. Yep. And, you know, and certainly you could say that I'm young, but you can't say that I'm inexperienced because of all the big cases I've done in my career.
Yeah. You're for change.
Yes. It's time for a change.
And it is time for a change. I agree. So thank you very much, Harry.
Yes.
With all that being said, it was a pleasure talking to you. And maybe I'll see you next time for some other type of interview.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Daniel. I'll gladly come back another time.
Awesome.
And now for a quick commercial break. Do you enjoy Unscripted with Daniel? Then you should go to my YouTube channel and click subscribe. If you're listening on the radio, you can do it after you listen to this broadcast. Do you like WVLP and support this radio station and like what it brings to your ears today and other days? Consider supporting WVLP by going to wvlp.org/support.
Hello, welcome to Unscripted with Daniel. I'm Daniel, your host, and today we have Gary Gurman, who is running again for Porter County Prosecutor. He's currently Porter County Prosecutor, and I want to, of course, thank you for your service for so long.
You're very welcome. It's so much fun. It's great.
It's fun. You like your role right now?
I love my job. I've told people for the last 7 years, it's the best 7 years of my legal career. Mm-hmm. It's such a great job.
Why do you love it so much? Just curious.
Just the challenges. Never a dull moment in the prosecutor's office. Mm-hmm. I get to be a lawyer every day. Very challenging decisions that we have to make a lot of times, and they all potentially affect the community, but they affect individuals' lives as well. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters. So it's extremely important, and we spend a lot of time talking about some of the cases that we have. Yeah,
I did some reading into what a prosecutor role is. It's different from like a criminal defender, because sometimes you're actually defending criminals and sometimes you're not. Maybe they're actually innocent. But your role is to actually make the decision that's best for the community and do what's right.
Yes, it really is. That's why I always tell our staff, excuse me, we want to do what's right. It's easy to say, but it's not always easy to identify. Mm-hmm. So many conflicting interests in a particular case. And we still have to take into account whether we can actually prove the case. And so we may think someone has committed a crime, but we just don't have the evidence. So we will file it. We won't file it. There are times when cases develop. They look good when we file them, but as the case goes on, things have a way of deteriorating, and we have to dismiss cases.
Yeah. Do you feel bad when you have to do that, or things that slip through the cracks?
I do, especially when I know that the crime has been committed. I know we've charged the right person, or we are about to, but we can't prove it. But that's the right decision. If we have a case that we can't win, what it has a tendency to do is take away the time we would spend on the cases we can prove. So it's a matter of managing the limited resources that we have.
Mm-hmm. Got to move on to something else.
Yes.
That's because otherwise you're not doing the law.
Correct.
It's just, I have a feeling that, and you know that something has been done, but the precedent that it could set is maybe the danger that by not saying that they're guilty of something, you avoid that potential dangerous precedent of basically putting someone in jail without the evidence.
Correct. So that's really what is underlying that too. While we may think the person committed a crime, if we can't prove it, that potentially calls into question whether we're prosecuting an innocent person.
Right.
So that's the last thing that we want to do, and so we're very vigilant about that as well.
So you are running again. Can you tell me why you're running again?
Yeah, it's really kind of easy. When I ran the first time, there were a lot of changes that I felt that I wanted to make in the prosecutor's office, and the way we dealt with nonviolent offenders, among other things. But as I said earlier, I love my job. I love the challenge, and the job has changed in 7 years. There are new challenges that we're facing that I want to be a part of. And I really think, just with my experience, that I can bring a lot to the community as a lawyer for everybody.
Yeah.
And so it's the challenge, it's the thrill. I love my job, and I really want to give back to the community. We have a great community. Porter County is really a great community.
I agree.
And I realized that even more when I ran the first time. I was going door to door, and the people were just amazing, that I met. These are strangers that I'm meeting. They couldn't have been nicer. It's super diverse. And I mean, I would be walking, going door to door, and there would be people like, "Hey, Gary, you want something to drink? Hey, can I make you a sandwich?" It was just amazing. So it gave me a whole new perspective. Because, a lot of times, I'm seeing the worst. And it's just a great reminder of, hey, we live in a great community.
That is great. That is great. And that maybe is a motivating factor, because the people of your community, and you want to almost protect them from.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. We take that extremely seriously.
Yeah.
And we do have violent crime, and we need to address it, and we need to address it right now.
Yeah. Tell me about the changes to nonviolent offenders that you were talking about.
Yeah, so...
Were there changes that you wanted to make?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes, in the way that we treat them, because it's a combination of accountability and rehabilitation. For people who... I'm talking about the addicts. So that could be drugs, alcohol, and they're destroying their lives. They're destroying their families' lives, parents, children, spouses, and they're getting arrested for fentanyl, heroin, meth, really out of control drinking. But I wanted to look more toward rehabilitation as opposed to incarceration. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes, for me anyway, it's important to advocate holding someone in jail because they are a danger to themselves. Mm-hmm. If I see a fentanyl case, I'm taking a really good look at what's going on. And the jail has chemical dependency programs there, and they have a therapeutic community. And those programs are great. I make sure I speak at every graduation that I can. Mm-hmm. One for men, one for women. In 7 years, I've maybe missed 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. So it's a chance for me to interact with the offenders and encourage them in their sobriety. So it's coming from me. Mm-hmm. So it's they're human, I'm human. We need to work our way through this. And I'm very open to releasing people directly into inpatient programs. The lawyers will come with a plan for their sobriety, and I'm all in. We're just doing the best we can. It doesn't work all the time, but it's working a lot of the time. It's amazing, Dan, if you take a look at a booking picture of when somebody got arrested, and then you look at them after they've spent 12 weeks in the Porter County Jail and have done the program, sometimes you would not even know it's the same person just from the picture.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. But that's what we're trying to do, is just to put people back, restore them to who they were. We have problem-solving courts that accomplish the same thing. We're really on that. And as I say, nonviolent offenders, we draw the line if there's violence involved. But for nonviolent offenders, I'm just trying to help people.
Right.
You help them, we help the community.
Yeah, that's really important because, they didn't hurt anyone and they're not trying to. They're just having a hard time and they're maybe coping with that with various substances, and they just need some help.
Yeah, they need help. And overcoming those addictions is extremely difficult. We give them that they really have to make some changes.
Yeah. Now, you said there were some new challenges that are coming on to the forefront of being a prosecutor?
Yes, I think what I'm seeing is an increase in internet crimes. So we're talking about fraud, cyber crimes, defrauding people. We have it here. The elderly people are getting scared. They'll drop $30,000 cash into a Bitcoin machine. Their credit cards are being compromised. In addition, internet crimes against children. And that falls into several categories. One is the increase in the possession of child pornography, dissemination of child pornography, and production of child pornography. And included in that would be sextortion with the teenagers. And we have chatting operations is what I'll call them, where there's a decoy who is portraying themselves to be a 13-year-old boy or a 13-year-old girl, and there were people who will be traveling here to meet with them and think that they're going to have sex with them. And it's not, they're traveling here, but there are also people in our community.
Is this all through the prosecutor's office?
This is all through the prosecutor's office.
I would have no idea that would be the case. I would assume that would be the police department running those types of things.
So the police department, they're running the operations, but they bring the cases to us to follow.
Right, okay, right.
And that can be our local departments. There are predator catchers that do those. We work with Secret Service to do that kind of thing. But it's on the increase, and I really think we want to be ready because it's not going to decrease. So we need to be ready as lawyers on how to prosecute those cases and how to make sure we've set aside the resources that it takes to prosecute those cases. Because it does involve the technology, the texting back and forth, the geolocation, using flock cameras.
And it would be a shame if just because of a lack of funding that those types of people do not face justice.
Right. That's why I say we need to be ready. And that's just me establishing a healthy relationship with the county council because they're the ones that control our budget. And so far it's been great, but I want to keep it that way.
So you have elderly people who are falling for maybe crypto or some sort of financial scams. Now, a lot of those, I would assume, are international. They're getting calls from
they're getting calls
all across the world,
all over. For example,
how do you prosecute something like that? Because now it's not somebody in our community, but somebody in our community is being harmed.
Right, and that's the challenge, because it's the technology of being able to track and trace where those calls have originated from. Every now and then, they'll send a courier to pick up the cash.
Okay.
And so if they do that and the person is wise enough to call the police, then we're waiting for them. But that's the real challenge, is the technology. It's sort of like swatting calls. Those are bounced. Right. They're bounced all over the place, and we're doing our best to follow that. When I talked yesterday, I told you earlier, I talked to the cyber security class at Ivy Tech yesterday, but that's the cutting edge stuff, is to be able to trace all those IP addresses from all over the world. In the Bitcoin situation, a courier comes up, picks up the money. Within 24 hours, it's already been wired overseas. And so once it gets out of the country, there's very little that anybody can do. We get a hold of the Secret Service right away. They have the technology and they have the money to be able to invest in what it takes to follow the money. As Tom Cruise says, follow the money, right?
I see. Is there any reason why, I suppose I can think of one reason why all these particular types of crimes are increasing, and it's because of the proliferation of the internet. It's just technology is there, it's accessible, so people are finding another avenue to do criminal things.
Correct. If you think about it, 40 years ago, there was some child pornography, but it's so easily accessible. I think, too, the one thing about child pornography is what we look for now in our child molesting cases is evidence of child pornography, because sometimes I think it starts with pornography, and when that isn't enough, doesn't satisfy whatever's going on, they move to child pornography. And when that's not enough, it moves to the actual physical encounter with a child. Right. So we're just trying to nip that in the bud if we can, and we know what to look for. Child molesting cases are extremely difficult to prove, because many times it's delayed reporting. We're dealing with young children. There's no DNA. We're relying on, of course, there's just two people. Right. So we're relying on the testimony of a witness, young child, all the kinds of interference in those cases. Sometimes moms take the dad's side or the perpetrator's side against the child, and we're fighting through all of that. Yeah. But at least in terms of investigation, we trained the police to grab all the devices. We get search warrants. Sometimes they're encrypted, so we can't necessarily get into them. But like our cybersecurity class, dude, you got to figure out how to break through the wall. But it seems sort of like, oh well, if somebody's watching child pornography, that's their problem. Not necessarily.
How is it not their problem? Yeah. Is it? It's them who are doing it, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think some of the science says that child pornography is just as addicting or more so than heroin in the way that it impacts the pleasure center of your brain.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't want to know. But
you want to come do my job?
No. Okay. That's why I'm not running. So I don't know that it matters who you're running against. Harry Peterson is also running. Do you think it matters to you who you're running against as far as like...
It does not to me. Really, as I say all the time, you put a letter next to my name, that doesn't define me. Yeah. I don't want it to. I just want people to make a judgment based on who I am, and just based on all my experience as a lawyer. So I thought about this the other day. It's not that I wanted it, the experience. It just got thrust upon me. And when you have to feed 4 children, you just do what you have to do. And so the early experience was extremely difficult, but it all paid off, as hard as it was.
So you were a lawyer before you were a prosecutor. Can you tell me like what?
Yeah. Okay. So I graduated from BU Law School in 1973. My first job is a deputy prosecutor.
That's funny.
In Valpo, of course. And so that's like the fall of 73. In May of 74, I became the chief deputy. But then there was an election in that fall of 74 when my boss lost to Bob Harper. And I thought I lost my job. But Bob kept me as the chief deputy. And at the beginning of January 1975, he gave me 25 cases that were in the office and said, go try these. And there were murders and rapes and robberies. They were just the worst of the worst. And that's what I did for the first 6 to 8 months of 1975. And it was hard. They were difficult cases. I was trying to think. I have no idea how many murder cases I've tried in my life. But then I was elected the first time in 1978. So I was elected, served, did the 4 years. But by then, we had 4 children. Or expecting our 4th, and I'm like, I gotta make some money. So I started private practice in Portage. Did a lot of stuff at the beginning just to make money, but ultimately settled on being a criminal defense lawyer, which I was basically for 35 years.
I see.
And then, and during that time, I was part-time public defender, did all kinds of cases in that role. I was involved in 13 death penalty cases, which are terrible, horrible cases. Just did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was hard work, but I just learned so much. So just to get back to your question, this is who I am. This is my experience. This is what I'm trying to do. And if people vote for me, that's great. If they decide to go a different direction, I can understand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you have a very full picture of all this prosecution from many different angles.
I do.
It sounds like.
I always tease the defense lawyers now. I'm like, dude, I got your playbook. I know what you're doing. So let's cut through whatever and let's talk about how we're going to settle this case.
Right. Let's get it done.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Is there anything that you want to add? I don't have any more questions.
Okay. No, I mean, the one thing I always tease people because I say I'm 23 years old, but it doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what I think. But I do a lot to maintain my physical health, which directly impacts my mental health and spiritual health. And I work out virtually every day. I play basketball still.
Nice.
I play basketball across the country. I play on a United States team for my age group. So I have gold medals from Spain, Finland, Italy, Spain a couple times, Portugal. But it keeps me young and able to do my job. It's extremely stressful, so I need to be healthy physically and mentally to make the right kinds of decisions that we have to make.
Yeah. Wow. I don't even play basketball at the Y, let alone Italy and all over the world. Okay,
give it a shot.
Maybe we'll start there.
You'll see me there. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Okay, Dan. Thank you very much. I hope this was informative.
I think it was for all the listeners out there. Thank you so much for watching, and if you, the listener, have any questions for Gary, you can ask it.
Yes,
in the comments.
You can in the comments, and if there are questions that I don't see or whatever, just let me know. I have a public email address, so people can email me, and I always respond.
All right.
So
good to know. What is the email address? So
okay, it's Gary.Gurman at portercountyin.gov.
There you go. Thank you guys for watching.
And Gurman with 2 N's.
Gurman with 2 N's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's important.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'll bounce.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
You're welcome.
All right, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Unscripted with Daniel. And if you're watching on WVOP, be sure to tell a friend about this great broadcast. And if you're listening on YouTube, then subscribe and like this video. Thanks so much. See you next time.